Hey guys, Cameron here today, and I'm going to bring you a tutorial instead of the usual video. And what I'm going to be covering is motion tracking. There's three different types of motion tracking in After Effects, which the program I'm going to be using. Well, there's two really, but I'm going to cover the third one, which will be stabilizing motion. So let's look at what we're going to create here. This is standard motion tracking here. And you're probably asking, what is this? What am I doing here? Well, if you look at this clip, and then I'll show you the original clip. As you can see, there's no painting on that wall there. So you go from that to that, and that painting looks like it's right on that wall. So I'm going to teach you how to do something like that, and then do a 3D tracking. So you'll get this. So it looks like that the word keyboard is sitting there in space, hovering right above the actual keyboard. So let's get started right away. I'm going to start with the normal motion tracking first. So let's bring up After Effects, and let's bring in our video clip that we want to motion track. Then make sure you create a new composition. I'm just going to name it motion. And they have that. So let's drag our video clip into the workspace here, and you see it's completely blank, no painting there. And just before I start in this, when you film your video, you're going to want to make sure there's points to motion track. Something easy, like when I filmed this, I was looking at these fret markers on this guitar that I can easily. These are high points of contrast right there. You see it's dark, and then these are light circles. Then it goes to dark again. So that's going to work real nicely. So let's get started. You go down to your workspace here, right click your layer, and now go to track motion. What that is going to do is, oops, bring this up, this window. If it doesn't get it, you can find it, where is it? Window tracker, then it should come up. So, and then when that happens, you'll get this little point. But now let's place this point on one of these fret markers. I'm going to place it on the first one here. So as you can see, that's placed perfectly around it. What I did was expanded this to there so it covers that whole fret. That's good. And then that's covering one thing. That's covering just motion. But what you're going to want to do for the most accuracy is check this rotation here. All that'll do is add a second point. It's way more accurate, and it'll cover, well, like it says, rotation. So we got those placed now. And next, you're going to want to hit this play button. What that is going to do is going to analyze all the frames and match these boxes up with all those fret markers. Or, well, those two fret markers. So let's do that, and hopefully we won't have any problems. If you do have a problem, you just press the stop button and realign the little track point on your point, and just hit play again. Okay, so it's finishing up here, and there you go. It looks just like nothing now, but when you zoom in on these are all keyframes that this motion track follows. So there you go. Now, what you want to do is convert these keyframes to something you can apply to, like an object. And you're probably wondering how we do that, so let's move away from here. Going back into here. Layer, let's go to layer, create a new null object. And what this null object is going to do is you'll be able to transfer these keyframes to this null object, animate the null object, and then parent like a painting or something object, in this case a painting, to that null object. So yeah. And this way, instead of applying these keyframes right to the object itself, and instead doing the null, it's a lot more mobile in the long run. So now that you have those, hold on here. Now that you have those, you want to go back to here. Sorry. Okay, you want to go back to here, in this thing here, do edit target. Make sure it says null 1 there. Or null 2, null 1, whatever null you have here. And then, once you have that selected, click apply. And make sure it says X and Y, not either of these, X and Y. Press OK. Then that should do it there. Now when you do that, you see that little red box here following along the camera movement. So that's good. It looks like a fairly good track. Next, you want to get a painting, or maybe you want to put text on that wall. In this case, I'm going to do a painting because that wall looks a little bare. So I have a painting already. You can go find something off the internet or whatever. It's just a picture. Drag it into your project files, and then drag it onto the top layer. Now you position where you want the painting. Just do size and whatnot. I'm not going to go into huge detail to make it look like it's actually in there. That's going to be mostly your job, but for little fine tuning, you can click this little cube here. That enables 3D, and you could just, select the rotation tool, and you could just do this to tailor it how you like. So that's already looking pretty good. When I go through here, you're gonna see, I forgot the most important step. So it's not done yet. Now you need to go down here and go to parent, it's a little squiggly line, and you want to click and drag to the null 1 object. Now what that does is basically attaches that to the null. Now when you go here, you're going to see that's moving along with the camera fairly well, or at least well enough that should be fine. If not, you'll want to go back into your motion track and just tweak it to your liking. So yeah, there you go. That's the basics of a normal motion track. Now I'm going to move on to the 3D tracking. So let's create a new composition. I'm just going to name it 3D. You can name it whatever you like. So now let's bring in our video clip again. We're going to bring in that clip of the keyboard. Now why I filmed the keyboard like this is because there's a lot of 3D in here. The wall isn't moving as much as the keyboard because the keyboard is in the foreground, wall is the background, so obviously the keyboard is going to have a lot more movement than the wall in the background. So I'm just going to trim this up here. It's to shorten time. Okay. So to do a 3D tracking, right click, and remember this part, you do track camera. Now it'll start analyzing, but for a clip like this, you're going to need to change some things. So I'm going to advanced solve method. For this, I chose typical. And you'll just want to mess with these until you get it right. If you don't do it right, it'll say solve failed, I believe, in a red banner. And then what I did for shot type, fixed angle of view might work for you. I did a specify angle of view, and what I did was 90 degrees, because 90 degrees is looking at head on. And that's good, and you just gotta let it analyze for a while. That might take a few minutes, depending on how long the clip is. And yeah. Okay, so I skipped ahead here to when it's almost done. It should be, there we go. And when it's done, it'll say solve on camera, step 2 of 2. That shouldn't take too long, aside from the what that blue banner said, and that usually takes a long time. So it looks like everything turned out perfect for me. If it doesn't for you, I mean, it's all trial and error. Just want to mess with this typical, and sometimes the shot type, maybe variables you can fix angle view will work for you. But other than that, turned out how it did like me, like here, then let's move on to the next step. So next, once you got this, you're gonna see all these little target points, and when you drag your mouse over, you'll get all these targets. So what you're gonna want to do is just find a point where this perspective matches what you want your object to be. So this is a nice one right here. I'm just going to go in there, right click, so right click it, then you can do create text in camera or create null in camera. I'm just gonna do create null in camera because that's gonna free up mobility, like null always does. So now it's gonna create a null object, just right there. It's kind of low, it's kind of small. There's gonna be a small problem with how the object, when it's placed, how it's gonna animate at first, but we'll fix that. So when you scroll through here, you'll see that the null object is moving nicely with how the keyboard is panning. So now let's create our object. So in this case, I'm just gonna do text. So layer new text. I'm just gonna type in keyboard, and I'm just gonna change the text to a white color. Stands out more. There you go. Okay, and then place it there or something. Then turn on 3D. This will do. You might disappear something. Scroll out and you'll see it's right here. So let's move this back to wherever we want it. And let's test how this is gonna look. My guess is it's gonna be off. So yeah. What you're gonna want to do to fix that, unless you like it like that, to match, say you want it on, like sitting on the keyboard almost, you want to move that back by a lot, and then you can just change the size right there, move that or something. Now when you scroll through, it looks a lot nicer. I could even move that back a little farther. But yeah, this is all just preference, so you don't have to do what I'm saying. I'm just doing this so it matches with my keyboard, the movement of the keyboard exactly. So now that looks pretty nicely. That's pretty nice. Okay, so there we have it. That's how it turned out. I think it looks really nice. Looks like it's panning along with that keyboard and 3D space there. Now you can, I chose to add a shadow in there in the finished clip, but what you can do, it doesn't matter. That's for you to figure out yourself, to tweak it to your liking. But yeah, that is done. So that's a little sample of 3D tracking. It's a very nice, powerful tool. Okay, so next we are going to cover the stabilize motion feature. So let's create a new comp. Name it whatever you like, of course. Now if you don't know what this is, basically what stabilize motion does, it takes a shaky clip like this and almost makes it look like it's a tripod clip. Or it's a tripod, yeah, tripod. Like it's on, like the camera's on a tripod. It's very still and nice. So now that we have this, let's go back and go to track motion. We could do warp stabilizer, but we're going to go the more familiar route and go to track motion. So you're here. Now here. To start off, you're going to want to press stabilize motion. Now what that does is it goes into the stabilizing mode of it. So let's do what we did exactly before. Bring that there. Add a rotation for more accuracy. Bring it to our second point. Just modify a little bit. And now you can go through and press play again. Okay, so there we go. It played through. And you get those keyframes like last time. And now, this time around, we won't create the null object because we don't want these keyframes to be applied to the null. We want it to be applied to this clip itself, so we can stabilize it. So now, make sure it's the target is set. Then click apply. Make sure it says X and Y. then there you go. It'll be stabilized. Now you may see this or this depending on what, if you have the transparency grid toggled, but you'll see these clips around it. That's because when it's stabilizing, it has to rotate it, so it has to end up moving the clip around to stabilize it. Now to fix that, what we want to do is just make this clip bigger, right there. Then that should solve it. It might not right there. Actually, what you want to do, if you plan on doing that, what we want to do is right click here, pre-compose, and move all attributes into the new composition. If you don't do that, it's going to be screwed up and it won't work. So do that. Now it's a composition of its own. When you open it up, you see there's no keyframes attached to it. It's like a brand new slate, but the stabilizer is still applied. So what you want to do to eliminate that that problem there, just make that bigger by just dragging the entire thing, and it should be fine. Unless you, and yeah, you'll just have to go through and iron all those little things out. So yeah, this example of what that looks like, it looks really cool. I mean, it looks like it's a tripod shot for the most part. There's going to be a few errors just because of accuracy of the motion tracking, that it may not be perfect. But yeah, I'm pretty pleased with the outcome. Looks very stable. So yeah, that's the basics of motion tracking, guys. If you have any problems, or if you have any what's the word I'm looking for? If you have any questions or problems or anything, message me here on YouTube, and I'll try and answer back. And I hope you enjoyed the tutorial, and I hope you learned something from it. Also, comment what other types of tutorials you would like to see from me, and I'll be trying to do a bunch of those this summer. So, yeah. Goodbye, everyone.